welcome to the Ferrari Esports series.
Yes, it's been an incredible few months since the hot laps kicked off, and we have had drivers from across the planet competing.
That's right. From Italy to Australia, Croatia to Canada, you guys have been driving hard and fast to make this the most exciting competition yet.
Yeah, we've got some great highlights from the qualifying races coming up, and the winners of those will be heading to the regional stage later in the year.
And if that isn't exciting enough, I'd like to welcome the one and only Matt Gallagher to the show. Let's hear it from Matt. Come on.
Thank you.
We're very excited that you're here.
I'm very excited I'm here.
Yeah, you're a lifelong Ferrari fan, right?
Absolutely, yes.
We need to state that at this point. Doesn't everyone know that already?
A lot of people know it.
Yeah.
Maybe not everyone.
I hear you had a little visit to Maranello recently.
I did, yes. So I was lucky enough to have a look around the Ferrari factory, both the road and Formula One. Yeah, it's safe to say I've been thinking about it ever since.
I asked this to Jonathan Riley in the last show, but could you feel the history as you walked through those gates?
What does it feel like? Is it warm? Is it warm? Is it like a rumbling in your tummy? How does it manifest?
It's hard to describe, really. You just feel the sense of history, the sense of heritage. A lot of the factory hasn't really changed. You know, there are parts of it that still very much is how it was many, many years ago. So, yeah, to walk around it, you can really feel the passion in everyone that's there.
So, are you excited for the esports series? I mean, we're very excited to have you along.
Absolutely. Can't wait to see all the chaos that'll unfold.
Do you like a little bit of chaos?
Yeah.
Just a sprinkling of chaos.
A little dash of chaos in there.
Now, if having Matt here wasn't enough, outrageous, how dare you, but we do also have a huge bundle of swag to give you courtesy of Ferrari for just getting involved.
We've got ACC DLC codes, we've got headsets, we've got clothing, we've got sim racing equipment. I'll even throw in a signed photo of yours truly.
So I thought the point of this was to encourage people to want to enter.
Hey, my mum says I'm very handsome. Anyway, if you'd like to be in with a chance of winning some of these prizes, do stay tuned to the end of the show. And it's crucial to point out that you don't need to be a sim racing prodigy in order to win.
And you ended that looking at me, but also fair. So let's kick off the show. And first of all, we want to show you exactly where all of our drivers have been going.
Our first circuit of the season is the iconic Spa, where Ferrari won the 6 hours of Spa with the AF Corsa team last year. Pay attention to Eau Rouge, one of the most iconic turns on the Spa track. You'll need to approach it at the right angle and speed. The Kemmel Straight is a prime spot for overtaking. It can be tempting to race through at full speed, but patience and strategy is the best approach.
Laguna Seca is our next circuit for the season, and a particular section to pay attention to is the corkscrew. The braking zone is over a crest, which can unsettle the car, and the second apex is completely blind, so you need to point the car where you think it's going to be and just, well, send it.
Up next is Suzuka. Ferrari has the highest number of pole positions in Formula One at Suzuka, 10. The S's section of the Suzuka track is a series of high-speed corners where it is all about rhythm. If you get thrown off that rhythm in the early part of the sequence, it can end up costing you in every corner and then all the way up the hill to Degna 1. Next up, Monza, home of the Italian Grand Prix, which Ferrari has won a total of 19 times. Monza is known for its long straights, so it's important to maximise your speed in these sections to gain an advantage over your opponents. Make sure you're getting on the power early and maximising your corner exits, because that's what will give you speed down the straights. We will be jumping into the highlights of our first race very shortly indeed, but don't forget there is still an opportunity to sign up to this year's tournament. Our final hot lap weekend will be between August the 7th and 13th. And yeah, what are you waiting for? There's a ton of prizes. Did you not see them?
There's a ton of prizes. Come on, guys, get on it. I think we should kick things off by heading on over to Monza for our Americas region, and I'd like to introduce our series commentators, Luke Crane and Arjuna Kankipati.
Monza for the Americas for their first qualifying race of the season. Arjuna, talk us through this beautiful historical circuit.
I mean, it's been hosting motor racing for 100 years. We so often come here and talk about turn one, but today let's talk about draft and how it will keep the field relatively close, encourage passing opportunities, but not without also potentially seeing plenty of heavy dives into those heavy braking zones.
Yes, one of those circuits where qualifying isn't everything. Of course, if you go to a qualifying session or a time trial, you want to be P1, but it doesn't really matter here. There are plenty of opportunities to make an overtake.
if you know how to set things up out of the corners, you will be able to find those opportunities. The Curva Parabolica, now of course renamed the Curva Alvaretto, that final corner that leads you into turn 1, it's where you carry the most minimum apex speed into a long straight. It's why it's the primary passing opportunity.
Qualifying race 1 for the Americas at Monza, and it is a very clean getaway from James Wolfe Jr. Very much, not having to deal with anyone up his inside there, Arjuna. A beautiful start.
Beautiful start, and it's going to be interesting given that the drivers behind him only hundredths off in qualifying, how close they'll be able to stay on this opening lap with tires still trying to come up to temperature. Got to make sure they don't fall too far back and allow themselves to break out of the draft. You can see Wolfe Jr. making a small mistake through that second chicane at the Roja, allows the cars behind to close up as they dive in through the Lesmos, but ultimately, nice tidy start through the opening top 10 effectively.
Yeah, 100%. Great start there, and that's really all you can hope for. No real competition through turn number 1, and it means you get a nice run early doors here and get yourself a bit of room to maneuver. A bit of room to maneuver, a bit too much room there for Entwistle as he runs off there at Ascari, runs through the gravel, loses a couple of positions. It was 3 wide going into towards the Ascari chicane, and Arjuna, when your mind's taken off of the braking point, it's very easy to lose out through there.
And he also rejoined in a way that he would be very glad to have seen that there were no cars coming through the corner, because he directly spat himself into the racing line. Down this main straight though, great run from Austin Turner, using the draft, using the exit out of the Parabolica to get to the outside into that braking zone of turn number 1. But this is where you got to be a little bit careful not to let yourself be squeezed by the car on the inside. Turner was cognizant of that, didn't want to be too aggressive, and as they all stumble over each other through the opening corner, we'll go too wide through Curva Grande.
And again, you've got to trust the car on the inside there to ultimately make that move stick there. Beautiful stuff from all 3 drivers. We've also got a bit of defending here from Baker as we head then down in towards the second of our chicanes, under a bit of pressure from the car behind, trying to indeed break that slipstream as we head then into the braking zone. Just about holds firm, and well, off the circuit we will go. A little bit of runoff to work with, but Baker does just about hold on.
If you force the car a little bit too wide, they get 2 wheels onto the grass, and sometimes they will shortcut that second chicane just to avoid making things any worse. And defense sometimes is a little bit too much if you're thinking about it. You can make your own mistakes, and Baker eventually made a mistake, and Malino Alvarez was able to squeak on through, but now provides that draft back to that yellow Ferrari as they head back into turn number 1, and now the hunted becomes the hunter.
Yeah, sets it up beautifully out of the exit of Parabolica, but then in towards turn number 1, runs ever so slightly deep, so we're seeing the good, the bad, and the ugly all in one set of corners. So Alvarez just about holds on as it stands, but still under some severe pressure.
And this sort of pressure as well at Monza means that sometimes you cook up the rear tires, you try and stamp on the throttle too early, and we're not yet at that pit stop phase. Alvarez a little bit deep through the Roja, Baker up and under, swoops on through before we even get up to Lesmo 1.
Yeah, as soon as you overheat the tires, you're basically, still trying to brake at the same point, but it becomes almost impossible. It's a snowball effect where the tires get hotter and hotter, you lose that tread, and ultimately more mistakes happen.
It's something that I've been very guilty of myself, but it also doesn't just impact you at the rears. Sometimes you find yourself attacking the fronts too aggressively as well, trying to get too much of your speed slowed down in the initial phase of braking, and it means that when you actually go to turn the car, you get a lot of understeer, which affects you more at Ascari than anywhere else. But Monza may look simple. It is very much not to work your way through, especially when you have to deal with dirty air like Feng's having to do now.
Yeah, Feng makes an absolute send in towards turn number 1. And well, he just has too much momentum in trying to turn the car and get the power down at the same time, and ultimately just loses the car on his own there. There was no contact from the other vehicle, and basically you got to lick your wounds at that point, take your medicine and move on.
And, well, that now means that we're talking about the balance of the car, the balance of the tires. Balance has gone all sorts of wrong. Juniper Baker shows that even if you're not having your tire slide around, you can find the rear end of the car stepping out, manages to bring it back into line through Lesmo 1, but Lesmo 2 catches him out, and Baker finds his way into the barrier.
Hey, a bit of rallycross here for the Ferrari Esports Series 2023. I don't mind if I do, by the way. Juniper Baker, definitely the best name of the competition so far.
Oh yes, that's one of those race car driver names, you know?
Yeah, 100%. Maybe doesn't help in terms of keeping the car between the white lines though, because on this lap that's 3 times in one go, and that is the snowball effect. The tyres just get worse and worse and worse, and you're basically trying to hold on, and yeah, ultimately trying to do the same lap times, it just doesn't work out. We've got the side-by-side then up towards Ascari. There was lovely. Nothing really came of it in the end, and now we're on board with Turner.
Yeah, this is where we saw a couple of the drivers earlier squabbling. Austin Turner continues just to run as to try and make sure he doesn't run too wide in through that second Lesmo, but in his angst to not run into the gravel, that's presented the side-by-side run, and one car almost runs its way to the white line, trying to make sure there's plenty of racing room being led, and the opportunity will see the overtake happen on the run up to Ascari. Turner not gonna try and sling it down the inside.
No, and you know, it's probably best you don't do there. You're going to lose far too much time if you do indeed try and hold on to that position. Sometimes you just got to know when you beat and move on to try and get across that line as quick as you possibly can.
And again, remember, we've got a second round of qualifiers to come. So these drivers who have been able to work their way into this first round know that even if they don't have the race speed this time, maybe that's something they can focus on in their preparations for qualifier 2.
Yeah, exactly that. Again, we're looking on board then with Feng, loses a position, and now we're headed back up towards Ascari for the second consecutive lap. Potentially going to see an overtake the opposite way round this time. Yes, up the inside, and it's done beautifully well there by Feng.
And this time too wide meant that he was able to spot his braking zone, and unlike Entwistle earlier, does not go off into the gravel. You just look at the clean air in front though. He's punching the hole in the air that those behind will take advantage of in the draft, and potentially more defense will have to be offered in the next couple of moments. Remember, the middle third of the race is where they get their tires changed, and so they are really pushing on either side of the pit stops to make sure that they get the most out of the rubber that they are given.
Yeah, and if you've made mistakes, we've seen plenty of drivers losing the car and smoke being kicked up. If you've had those kind of incidents at the start of the race, it more than likely means you've got to come in early, right? So keeping it on the straight and narrow really gives you the best opportunity in terms of, you know, having the best strategy call. We head then on towards Pedro Piano, who's trying to set up a move here down towards that second chicane. He's going to have the outside line then through the Curve Grande. As we come up towards that second chicane, is absolutely going to nail it. It's a beautiful move then into the second chicane, and it is job done. Delightful bit of driving as Ackerman drops back.
Johnny Ackerman, one of the drivers that I think we can shout out for defying the law of sim racing, where apparently youth brings pace. Johnny Ackerman, 50 years plus, shows that experience sometimes, especially in a track like Monza, can prove paramount. Hunter's trying to go and try and work his way on forward. It's just going to be run out of Parabolica, where he's just trying to get the draft working in his favor. Tuck up as close behind the rear wing, the diffuser of the Ferrari in front of him. Pop out at the last possible minute. He's hoping not to go to the outside, but he's going to be forced there, and it's going to be last to the late breakers here.
Yeah, we see Hunter there, just gets a really good exit out of Parabolica, sends it round the outside, doesn't quite have the overlap though through the mid part of the chicane, but where it matters, the exit has that traction nailed down, and Juniper Baker is going to lose a spot.
Again, they left each other enough room, much like they're doing here with Austin Turner, continuing to just leave enough room as they cycle through the Rettifilio chicane, which has been good because we talked about Turn 1 drama potentially, Luke, being an issue for these drivers at Monza before we went on air. Haven't seen too much of that here today.
No, it's been pretty good. Everybody's kept it on the straight and narrow for the most part, and we've seen some great battling from all of our drivers as well. So it's not a case of people have been too timid, that's for sure. It's been a pretty good spectacle.
And pit stop cycles coming through. Ackerman heads out of the lane, unfortunately will blend into relatively clear air, but Juniper Baker out of pit lane, misses the braking zone, takes the shortcut, and quite neatly dodges the styrofoam barrier.
Yeah, I'll tell you one thing, braking on the tarmac here is tough. Braking on the grass is a lot tougher. Ultimately, missing the braking point there, running a little bit wide through turn number 1. But ultimately, no damage, all good, still carried on. Maybe, again, just a slight damage to the ego.
Hasn't had to give up a position up there, I think. Actually gained a spot from all of that, but the cold tires will still be coming up towards their temperature at this point. Wolf Jr. still continues to run at the front, but as you can see, as just maximizing the track, pushing all the way up to the grass in the entry into the second Lesmo, pushes over to the gravel on the exit.
Yeah, in a comfortable qualifying position as it stands, and just pushed a little bit too far. Doesn't really need to be taking those chances, but you try and tell a sim racer to go a little bit slower. Just doesn't really compute with their brain. Through Ascari, again, maybe a bit of damage to the ego more than anything, as we see a massive moment actually through Ascari, and well, you've absolutely got to take a little bit off there. You can't be making mistakes like that, especially when it's only the top 3 that qualify. And wow, that could have been detrimental to his qualification process.
Well, ultimately, you talked about egos. That was just about wanting to be first, and Wolf Jr. did not want to see Piana be able to slip on through, and with just, what, a second or two splitting them, the pressure eventually got to Wolf, made that mistake through Ascari. We saw how much he was pushing through the Lesmo as a new race leader at Monza.
Yeah, and not only was it a race lead for Piana, Piana did indeed take that checkered flag, finished in P1. Wolf Jr., even with that spin off the back of the Ascari chicane, still did manage to finish in second, and Ackerman finishing in third spot. So 3 strong contenders making it through to our next stage.
So Matt, what did you think of the first race?
Yeah, it was awesome. It was great to see the competition come to life after the hot laps. Of course, you know, these drivers have been spending countless hours at home trying to set the fastest time. We then put them all on the same track, and yeah, there's some varying skill levels there. That's the beauty of the competition. You know, turn up and see how well you can do. And some of the drivers were excellent, as we saw with the results that came in.
It's just different when there's other people out there.
It really
honestly
is. And I think we can account for the pivotal moment in the race, which was Andrew Wolf Jr. spinning at Ascari, at the second part of Ascari. Oh. And we can put that down, I guess, to the sort of pressure of racing on track with someone breathing down your neck.
No, if I was Wolf Jr., I'd say that was just a dress rehearsal. Wanted to get rid of that spin for when I get to the grand final.
Is that how that works?
Yeah, sure. You know, you want to practice what you don't want to do. Sure. But of course, you know, it still didn't matter because he still qualified, managed to make it, I think, in P2. And of course, the top 3 went through. But Piana was, there the whole time. It was an intense battle for the lead between the two of them. We saw a lot of action a little bit further down the field as well, which could have ended up being a top 3 position after the mistake that Wolf Jr. made.
Yeah, lots of last of the late breakers into T1.
Classic phrase.
This is Monza after all. A few people got it wrong. I noticed Dai Feng had a little spin there, but we also saw some great battles, some great defence into that corner. It's just a great place for racing, isn't it, Monza?
It's a fantastic racetrack. It's a great first sector, and there was some hard battling into there. There was some curbs being used. There was some straight on, just going to go round the bollards and whatnot as well. And they were certainly leaving it all out on the racetrack.
I think that's one of the things that sort of surprised me and was the point where Wolf Jr. slipped up, was how much curb they were taking on that second part of Ascari, and the sort of margins between success and rotating the car.
Yeah, this is the thing, right? I think for some of the faster drivers, they're expecting to make it through to the top 3, but they should also be practicing giving it absolutely everything, and that's what Wolf Jr. was doing until the very end. Now, what that will do to his mental sort of preparation as we go into the next rounds, we'll have to wait and see, because on one side it might be like, right, okay, I was a little bit silly there. I had the win in the bag, threw it away. On the other hand, it might be, I've done that once. Could I do that again? Because, of course, as we get to the later stages, there's more up for grabs, an amazing tower of prizes, and being.
I mean,
part
he's
of
not
Ferrari
even looking
himself.
at me at any point. It's just the things that are behind.
Straight past you.
Yeah, just like, what's that? It's a Ferrari
And, of course,
logo?
being part of the Ferrari family as well. So.
Yeah, I think that's got to be the thing that will weigh more on your mind in terms of pressure, is that idea of being connected to Ferrari, the prestige associated with that. I mean, that's why we're all here, right? And I think probably the prizes are great, but being part of the Ferrari family, that sort of ultimate prize that is on offer here, I'd imagine that's the thing that's really building the pressure for these competitors.
Yeah, if I was taking part, I'd crumble immediately. The thought of that is quite the accomplishment to eventually achieve for the person that wins this. So this is fine for those drivers. Those two, Piana and Wolf Jr., they were very quick. I think they were 0.8 a lap quicker in terms of their fastest lap than anyone behind them. So those two are definitely worth watching as we move through the tournament.
I definitely enjoyed the battle happening just outside of the podium positions. It was Juniper Baker. Really enjoyed her performance. Some great battling with Alvarez. At one point, it looked like Alvarez was going to take her out into T5, and he just managed to bail out. Like, fair play to him. It must have been tempting to just let it run, probably like pinball Baker off the track. And
I see what kind of sim racer you are.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But
Very sportsmanlike.
creditably, Alvarez bailed out, took the hit himself, and that was a great battle all the way through. And I really enjoyed Baker doing basically a pair of drifts through each of the Lesmo corners. I couldn't do that if I tried.
A different way of racing. Definitely not the fastest, but definitely the coolest way of doing
and
it.
sometimes it's just, you want to do the coolest.
Absolutely. Look, we're talking about it now on the show. So, but no, it was a great battle. And as we sort of said, and we saw with Wolf Jr., he made that mistake right at the end. Just because it wasn't for the top 3 at that specific moment doesn't mean that could have ended up being one of the qualifying spaces. So, a fascinating battle.
I think that's the joy of the structure of this competition, is that you have these people who've honed their sort of hot lap times at home, but everything changes once you're on track. And I guess Monza specifically, one of the things you can't legislate for when you're practicing on your own is the slipstream, right? Which is so important in terms of making a move here. And you can't practice that if you're in a sim rig on your own in your bedroom.
Yeah, the slipstream's amazing because you're catching the car ahead, then all of a sudden you forget that you've got an extra 10, 15 mile an hour and you've already missed your braking zone because you're braking where you normally would.
Yep.
And that's probably the mistakes we saw into turn 1. But yeah, there's so many things you can't prepare for in time trial or doing hot laps that when you get on the racetrack and you have to prepare yourself mentally that, OK, I want to go and do a 1 minute 48 or whatever your target lap time is. And that's something I've always struggled as a sim racer, is being frustrated with a car ahead being there. But you have to play it calm, you have to play it composed, especially when the top 3 is what all you get to actually qualify. If you send a move a little bit too early and you make a mistake and drop down the order, then you're going to be kicking yourself because you know that pace is there to be qualifying for the next round. So there's a lot more than just outright pace, and I think we'll see that.
And it's a mental fortitude as well, because so much is, just so reaction-based. Like, it really shows, like, how your mental fortitude is to be able to just, like, adapt, like, quickly and not let these things kind of affect what you're doing after making right or wrong decisions.
Yeah, I think this is the thing about being a modern racing driver. So much of it is psychology, as we've said. So much of it is absorbing pressure when there's someone behind you, or being able to apply pressure when you're chasing someone down. And modern racing drivers are visiting sports psychologists to help manage this sort of pressure and the ebb and flow of a race. And I think what we're finding now with sim racing is that sim racers are having to apply those same techniques.
Yeah, I mean, it's all well and good you doing your fastest lap when your mum's watching, but then when you've got the world watching, you guarantee there's going to be a few tenths missing because you're thinking about everything, the stars, and the lights, there's cameras, there's everything. And the mental preparation is the most important thing. I don't even think it is just pure raw talent. It's delivering it on the day because you have one opportunity.
Do you think Piana will feel he's set his stall out early and the momentum will be with him?
Well, he was there with Wolf Jr. I think those two are going to be really interesting to watch through the competition because I see them probably both going quite far. But yeah, I feel like Piana might have a slight mental edge after Wolf Jr. was spinning around.
Next up, we are heading right back to Monza, the Cathedral of Speed, for the EU qualifier race in the company of Luke and Arjuna.
Qualifier 1 from Monza for the Ferrari Esports Series 2023. As we head all the way down towards turn number 1. It's a long run. And wow, are we going to see a lovely clean turn 1? Very rarely this happens in sim racing. And wow, the first group get through there relatively nicely. A little bit further back, it looks like everyone's getting through okay as it stands. And wow, yeah, looks pretty good, Arjuna.
Isaac Gillison able to take the lead away from Ostrich in through that opening corner, but in through the Roggia. This is where you try to get single filed out because the run into the Lesmos, you got to be careful not to get 2x2 as they're doing for third on back, separating themselves from those top 2. And now we're starting to see the gap start to build and the draft start to play its effects.
Yeah, P1 and P2 right now, you're looking in your rearview mirror going, go on lads, keep going side by side, that's exactly what we want, we can drive away. As you see a little bit of gravel being thrown up there in the background, but yeah, a very, very good start from our front drivers.
3 wide down into Ascari. You know that's the opening lap here at Monza. Everyone wants a bit of the action up the inside. I think we're going to see that white Ferrari be able to hold the spot, tucking back into line. The black car will try and cut back underneath as they work through the second part of the corner. But there's a sausage curb you got to be careful of. Somehow they all survive.
Yeah, absolutely sensational stuff from all of our drivers, but then as we come down towards Parabolica, Kwasniewski loses the rear. You just saw the car completely go out of shape, and look at this, look how close everyone is on the first lap. Many positions lost, and well, it's going to be a long hour now for Kwasniewski.
Absolutely, and he's going to have to charge his way on through. We'll have to see his confidence under the brakes. Hopefully he hasn't got too much dirt on the tires either at this point. Take a look at Van Oosterhout a little bit further up, working through that second Lesmo on that blast up towards Ascari. Has to take evasive action as a car gets a little bit squirrely on the exit of the corner. And that's something I was saying earlier with trying to make sure you get as good an exit as possible, because that's the momentum you carry into the next braking zone.
Yeah, you certainly do. And again, just about avoiding it, keeping themselves out of trouble. So all good in the hood. Krasniowski making another mistake here. So again, trying to make up time from that mistake at Parabolica as we go through Variante. And well, luckily, there's a nice bit of runoff there. There's a few bumps and scrapes you've got to deal with, but ultimately still in the race.
Absolutely, and that's the important thing. He's had a couple of setbacks now, but is still on the tarmac, and that is definitely something that's good to see. Jump on board in through that Curva Grande, sweeping through into that second chicane, and you just get a sense of the ride that some of these drivers get up in towards Ascari. You can see drivers trying to back off and just potentially set up moves as Szybewski goes on the hunt, trying to work his way forward.
Yeah, certainly there. And well, if it was getting bad, it's now getting worse, because Kwiatkowski unfortunately gets shunted in towards turn number 1, and it's just not been a good day at the office here. And then there's just a massive pile up behind, because if you're close into turn number 1 and there's an accident, there's not really anywhere you can go.
It all concertinas up. That's why it doesn't matter if it's lap 1 or lap 50 at turn 1. You're always just that little bit concerned at the end of the day. But while Isaac Gillison was able to take the lead on the opening lap, he wasn't able to break away. And the fastest qualifier, a driver that punched in a 1:46.846, half a tenth quicker than Isaac Gillison in the qualification phase, started to try and set things up, working through that Curva. Alboreto, no longer the Parabolica, on the charge for the lead.
Yeah, certainly there. It didn't quite work out that time around, but we go a little bit further back here. Barriant trying to make a move on the inside of turn number 1, successfully out-braking his competitor, and they still try to fight through the second part of the chicane. It's brilliant driving from both, and again, it takes 2 to tango, and ultimately the move wasn't quite made.
No, but you can see the respect that they gave each other, right? To leave each other room to navigate through the corner. And that's so important given how much they're all trying to maximize the exits. Look at cars clambering over the curbs and getting a little bit squirrely, showing how much they continue to push as we still not enter into our pit stop phase.
No, we certainly haven't here. And Chmielewski rear end getting a little bit loose here. You're talking about the pit stop phase. Well, they need some fresh rubber onto the car really to try and counteract these issues that they are having. But it seems like if you're keeping it between the white lines, you still got a chance here, because there's plenty of opportunity of other drivers making mistakes.
Remember, they're going to take 4 tires as we enter into that pit stop phase, and so it means you've pushed for 20, 25, 30 minutes. You get a fresh set of boots and you push for another 30 minutes. It's 2 sprint races that are split up by effectively a dead heat in the pit stops. No one's going to have different pit stop times. It's all about execution either side of your trip to the lane.
Yeah, 100%. It's all about aggression coming in and indeed aggression coming out of the pits. High risk, high reward. You can receive a penalty for indeed going in the pits too fast. We're on board now with Isaac Gillison pushing hard and, well, trying to make up some positions here as we come through the second of our chicanes here at Monza. Gillison, who is no slouch, he is one of the very best GT drivers out there. And we come through the Lesmo curves and he is pushing so hard, but through the Lesmos, up towards the second of the Lesmos, has to take some evasive action there as a car ultimately making a little bit of a mistake there, and that will put hairs on your chest there, Arjuna.
Unfortunately, he was able to break away from second earlier, and so slowing down to take that avoiding action didn't drop him into the draft of those trying to hunt him down behind. So, something that you're always a little bit wary about here at Monza, but we were going to see a bit of a split call as second place would come into the pit stops a little bit earlier than Gillison and try and make something happen.
Yeah, again, you're trying to maybe have less laps to do near the end of the race on fresh rubber, ultimately meaning you're quicker near the end of the race, and to see whether it worked out. But then we have a battle here between Kwasniewski and Oosterhout. As we come through the Lesmos, this gets very frantic indeed.
And this is one of the shorter runs, actually, in terms of straights. A lot of the runs between the corners are around 1 odd kilometers. And it's an interesting one to note. You think that maybe the pit straight's one of the longer runs, maybe out of turn 1 into the second chicane, but they're all relatively equal. And maybe the speed that you enter into the straight is what is the determining factor. And that's why out of the Parabolica into turn 1 does tend to be the primary passing zone.
Certainly, and you know, it is all about that. It's all about making sure that you're maximising your exit speeds, making sure you're maximising your speed midway through the corner, because it is a power circuit. It really is as simple as that. And well, here is the battle to end things here. Look how close they are at the end of this race.
And this is, of course, a recovery drive for someone that did not enjoy a very good first 30 minutes, but he's going to have some fun towards the end, popping to the outside. Always a difficult place to leave yourself into turn number 1.
Oh, absolutely there. And well, yeah, really leaving it up to the car on the inside to race you nice and cleanly there if you're going to go around the outside of turn number 1. And it just didn't quite work out there. Oosterholt running it ever so slightly deep in towards turn number 1, if we're going to put it politely. Just about holds on to the position. We're heading down in towards the second chicane. Still yet another run to contend with. Oosterholt's going to go defensive then on the inside. And well, as you can see, there's a little bit of shape shift in there. It's not quite going to work out, but the exit speed and the speed being carried by Kwiatkowski nearly getting him an opportunity down towards the Lesmos. Definitely now giving an opportunity in towards the Lesmos, but ultimately didn't quite work out.
It was a really fun fight as well. You could just see them trying to compromise each other on that run into that second chicane, neither really wanting to give an inch. And as the laps wound down, continued fighting further back in the field, but not at the front, where after Isaac Gillison was able to take the lead in the opening corner of the race, did not look back after that, and looked set to see the checkered flag.
Ostrek took the checkered flag after Isaac Gillison having some technical issues, which opened up an opportunity for another driver to qualify through. Ullman finished second, and wow, the golden ticket was taken by Cott in third spot. What a race, Arjun.
Monza always puts on a show. We talked about the draft initially and how it was going to provide some opportunities for close packs to stay tight and for drivers to make dives down the inside. We saw a couple of them. We saw some not so good moves potentially as well, but ultimately the fastest qualifier walks away with the race victory.
As you've just seen our final race for today, Matt, what are your thoughts?
It was brilliant. It was the most competitive session I think we've seen today. It was a really close fought battle at the front. Ostrek, Ullman and Cott separated by 10 seconds at the end of the race. And I think even sort of fourth down to sixth, they were kicking themselves a little bit. The pace was really good. The top three were the only drivers we've seen dipping into 1:47 as their fastest lap times. So yeah, as I say, EU certainly delivering around Monza.
Yeah, we definitely had a bit of chaos in turn 1, you know, cars everywhere at one point. But for the most part, this was a cleaner, faster race.
Yeah, delete lap 1.
Yeah.
Because that was carnage. But I don't think that's necessarily down to the standard of the driver, because I think that was probably the highest standard we've seen. The experience could be high as well, but sometimes lap 1, turn 1 at Monza can just cause a little bit of carnage. Just one small little tap to a car in front, they lose the car slightly, and all of a sudden you have nowhere to go. It's such a tight sequence of corners. But yeah, it was great to see, and it certainly shows that there's going to be a tight battle moving forward into the competition as well.
You were taking a look at the lap times and stuff. They're pretty impressive compared to the North American ones, right?
Yes, yeah, it seems like EU, especially around Monza at least, have the upper hand. Whether that will continue to translate in other circuits as we move forward, we'll have to wait and see. But right now, yeah, they look quite strong.
And we had a technical issue for the leader late in the race.
Yeah.
Like in real motorsport, technical problems can happen and will ruin your weekend.
Yeah, I feel really bad for Gillison, who was looking unbelievably quick. It's just, unfortunately, the name of the game sometimes. You can have a hardware issue or whatever it might be, but hopefully not the end for him, because of course, you know, the competition's still open, isn't
Absolutely.
it? So, you know, I'll throw that one in there.
I'm sure he'll re-enter. He's a sort of known name within esports, a sort of well-known esports driver, so I'm sure we will see that name popping up in the later hot lap competitions.
Yeah, if you're an esports driver, you've got that competitive spirit, and if something's taken away from you in such a cruel manner, you're coming back if there's an opportunity, aren't you?
Absolutely. The excitement isn't over just yet. Why don't we head on over to the leaderboard to see how all of that drama on the track shook out.
First up, we have the Americas. At Monza, we saw Joao Piana take the win, Andrew James Wolfe Jr. was in second, and Johnny Ackerman rounded out the podium in third. Over at Laguna Seca, we have Andrew James Wall Jr. taking the win, Cody Lawyer was in second, and Brian Zabelski took third. At Suzuka, our race winners were Skylar Lovrink, who was in first place, Max A. Baumann, who took second, and Jose Antonio Este Vasquez, who was in third. And finally at Spa-Francorchamps, it was Ryan Woodrow who was in the lead, Jose Antonio Este Vasquez was in second, and Alexander Marlowe took that final spot in third.
For the EU qualifiers, the following drivers have moved to the next phase. Benjamin Ostrek came in first, Dominic Ullman is in second, and Adrian Kott takes third. Over at Laguna Seca, we have Gianmarco Fiducci taking first, Christian Barbanera taking second, Alessandro Ottaviani taking third. At Suzuka, our race leaders were Stefano Bonsignore taking first, Gian Pietro Oggiano taking second, Federico Stevanella taking third. And finally, at Spa-Francorchamps, Leonardo Dalcamo takes first, Maurice Stricture takes second, and David Nagy takes third. Obviously, I'm super excited about what's to come, but I'm also equally excited about our head-to-head.
Oh, I'm glad you haven't forgotten. Yeah, I had a trophy made.
Oh no, I saw it earlier. It's down here. But Mike, you've literally already got your name printed on it.
I'm manifesting. I'm manifesting the victory. I'm cosmically ordering the victory.
I mean, manifesting is a word, but I could think of another word that I could use to describe that.
Is it rude?
Well, obviously, it's super rude. You put your name on the trophy already.
All right.
What do you want from me?
Fine. Well, much as that is a great prize that you would be proud to win,
Yeah.
the prizes for the actual competition are much better. We have sim racing equipment from Thrustmaster.
Yeah.
We have hats and apparel from Ferrari. We have DLC codes for Assetto Corsa Competizione. And, crucially, you don't have to be brilliant at racing games to be in with a chance of winning. We're going to be doing weekly giveaways of these prizes, and all you have to do is register a valid time on the competition. So sign up to the competition, register a valid hot lap, and you'll be in with a chance of winning.
I really feel like they put that in just to make me feel better about how terrible I am.
You specifically?
Yeah, just me specifically.
I could see that, yeah.
No, yeah, it's going to be such an amazing second split coming up very, very soon, and we're super glad that you will come and join us because there's so much more competition to be had. I guess we should probably wrap it up. We'll say goodbye to Mike. But we'll say goodbye to Matt, and thank you for joining us. And yeah, we will be back again very, very soon.
Bye.
Bye.